Making it legal. Chapter 10. You're honest, hardworking, and you report all the income from your home business. So you don't have to worry about lawsuits, right? Wrong. No matter how small your business is, it is likely to be governed by a complex web of local, state, and federal laws. Some of these laws are designed to protect your customers, suppliers, creditors, and employees from being harmed by your business or its activities. Others protect you from competitors, suppliers, and even your clients. Still others exist as municipal servants will invariably tell you because that's the way it's done or because that's the way the law says. Typical of this law is a statute in a New York State township requiring individuals who want to start a home business to get a building permit, have the home office inspected by a town building inspector, and get a certificate of occupancy for the office, even if they will be working at the dining room table, won't be making physical changes to the home, and won't be having customers come to the house. What to do to make my business legal? The regulations with which you'll need to comply in order to be legal vary according to what you do and where your business is located. But typically, with business owned and operated by one individual who has no employees, sole proprietorship, you will need to follow some of all of these tips. Register your business name and get a certificate of doing business under an assumed name, commonly called DBA. In some states, you are required to register your business name, whether you are operating under an assumed name or not. Publish your intention to do business in an official notice required in some but not all states. Get required permits and licenses. There will be, in addition to the DBA certificate. Comply with zoning regulations. Regulations regarding signs on your business property, environmental protection laws, if any apply to your business, licensing law, etc. Make arrangements to collect state sales tax if you sell taxable products or services. Keep accurate income and expense records and report your income to the IRS and state tax authorities. Pay owned income taxes and self-employment tax quarterly. Meet any specific bonding or insurance regulations your locality or state has instituted for your type of business. Depending on the nature of your business, you might also have to comply with noise codes, sanitation regulations, laws governing placement and size of signs, or other laws. If you add employees, you also have to comply with all applicable state and federal labor laws. Are there any laws that could prevent me from starting a home business? Unfortunately, there could be. Despite the millions of people who work at home, many companies have zoning and other regulations prohibiting home businesses. Although the intent of such laws may be to maintain property value and prevent a residential neighborhood from turning into a little Main Street, most home businesses generate less neighborhood traffic and are far less noise than the average car or truck driving suburban teenager. Other laws or regulations might also interfere with your work at home plans, including labor laws, health codes, and licensing requirements. The only way you will know for sure what rules affect you is to ask appropriate local agencies and officials. Why do communities change the outdated laws? Why don't communities change the outdated laws? Many companies are attempting to change the laws, but often change does not come easily. Municipalities may be caught in an intractable situation involving residents who want to change, residents who fear the change, and residents who haul not fair because their type of business will not be included among those deemed acceptable for home pursuit. The resulting battle can be time-consuming and costly. The town of Southold in New York was sued after implementing a zoning law change that allowed certain types of home businesses. The citizens who filed the suit and won claimed the new law was illegal because the town had not first done an environmental impact study. As a result, the town had to do the environmental study, schedule a whole new hearing, and then vote on the law a second time, a process that took many months. Are the laws the same throughout a state? No. Zoning laws are established locally, often at the township, city, or village level. Furthermore, each town or village decides for itself what types of home businesses it will allow. Thus, in one community, you might be able to run a home business that has up to 2 employees, while in another community, that same business might be restricted from having any employees. In still another community, you might be able to have a home-based business if you are a fisherman or a carpenter, but not if you have a real estate agent or insurance broker. Don't a lot of home businesses just ignore zoning laws? Many people do operate in violation of zoning regulations. In some communities, there is no attempt to enforce the regulations unless a resident complains and forces officials to close down the illegal home business. In fact, according to a report in the Chicago Tribune, there was one community in Illinois where 2 trustees of an Illinois town had to excuse themselves from discussions of a proposed zoning law that would legalize home businesses. The reason? Each of the trustees had a home-based business. You cannot assume, however, that it's okay for you to disregard local law because some town boards don't enforce regulations and some people get away with operating on the sly. If there are laws prohibiting your type of home business, it will only take one complaint to plunge you into a pot of legal hot water. Who would complain? Neighbors are generally the source of such complaints. A neighbor may not like seeing your truck parked in the streets, may think your equipment interferes with television reception, or may not like it that you wear a single earring or your son has shoulder-length hair. The motivation for the complaint doesn't matter. If you are in violation of the law and a complaint is filed, town officials have to follow established procedures to deal with the complaint. Even if your neighbors won't complain, someone outside the immediate neighborhood might. Under the heading of Life Isn't Fair comes an incident where zoning officials were alerted to an illegal home business after a postal carrier made a comment to his supervisor about the volume of mail going to one home in his route. What would happen if someone did file a complaint? Usually, you would be forced to stop running the business from your home and could be fined and even possibly put in jail. If you continue to violate the ordinance, fines can be as high as $75 to $100 a day or more. Is there anything I can do if the town officials say I can't run a business from my home or apartment? If your business creates no traffic, noise, odor, or other neighborhood disturbances, you might consider trying to get the laws changed. Many communities are beginning to realize their laws are antiquated and need to be updated. If you don't want to try to change the law, you might want to try to get a variance. A variance is a license allowing you to do something that is contrary to the general law. Enterprising individuals sometimes tackle the problem in other ways. 2. A woman in Florida who raised plants as a hobby decided to turn her hobby into a business by selling plants at a flea market. She applied for and got a state nursery license, but when she applied for a business certificate from the town, she was told by the town officials she couldn't run a business from her home and would be prosecuted if she accepted any money for her plants. Infuriated, the woman wrote a letter to the town licensing agency and sent copies to county officials. In the letter, she compared her business to that of an Avon representative who stores and sorts inventory at home, but actually sells the products and delivers it to clients away from the home. She added that if she were denied the right to run her business from home, she would make every possible effort to see that Avon representatives and other people who did similar work would be denied the right to work at home. The woman got her business license. Still another tactic was used by Bernardine and Joe Foley, founders of Westchester Book Composition, Inc., when town officials told them they would have to stop operating their business from a garage on their property. They realized it was only a matter of time until Westchester Book would outgrow the converted garage. But they weren't quite ready to move, so they challenged the zoning law in court. The town couldn't force us to stop operating the business while we were contesting the suit, explains Joe Foley. It cost us thousands of dollars in legal fees, and eventually we lost, asked Bernardine. But it bought us time we needed to get ready for the move. How do I find out about zoning laws? To find out what the zoning laws are in the community, look in the blue pages of your phone book, the government listings, and find the number of your town or city zoning board or building department. If you can't find a number for either of these departments, call the main administration number for the town and ask where to get the information. Describe the type of business you want to start and the nature of the location from which you like to operate. Home, Main Street, building in an area that appears to be a mixture of residents and offices, etc. Ask what laws might apply to that type of business and if any special permits or licenses will be needed. If you don't want to give away your identity, call anonymously. If you want to be sure to maintain your anonymity, and you live in a community where the phone company is selling caller identification services, you make your call from a payphone. Caller identification systems allow people who are receiving a call to see the phone number of the person making the call. If a business was operated on the property before, I bought it, will it be able to run a business there too? Not necessarily. If the property is in a residential area, the people before you might be operating illegally or might have had a special use permit that won't apply to your business. Other factors can also come into play. In Southern California, a horse breeder ran afoul of zoning laws after buying a ranch because he had 29 horses on the ranch and the zoning laws only permitted 21. The only way you will know for sure is to check the zoning laws or have an attorney do it for you. Where do I find out about state and federal laws affecting my business? Local offices and small business administrations at the SBA, the Service Corps or of Retired Execs Score, or the Small Business Development Corporation, SBDC, in your area may be able to provide the information you need or tell you where to get it. See Appendix 2. Look in the blue pages of your phone book under Federal Government for SBA and SCORE locations near you, or call the SBA Automated Information System at 1-800-827-5722 for the location in the nearest office. If there are any SBDCs in your area, they will be under the state listings rather than the federal government listings. Still, another possible source of information would be colleges or universities in your region that have small businesses or entrepreneurial courses or majors. Should I use my own name or a business name? Many people operate under their own name, at least during the startup phase of their business. Doing so lets them avoid having to open a separate bank account for the business. While this works for some businesses, others find telling people to make checks out to them personally makes the banks look small and unprofessional. Can I add an associate's or company to my real name without having to register it as a business name? Adding words to or changing your legal name in any way makes it fictitious name and will most likely subject you to registration requirements. What happens if I don't register my business name? Most banks will not cash checks made out to your business name unless you have given them a copy of your DBA. Thus, if you don't register your business name and a customer gives you a check made out to that name, you either have to return the check and ask for one or register the name and get the DBA before cashing the check. If you try to register the business name and someone already is using a confusingly similar name, you may not be allowed to register your chosen name. What will it cost to register my business name and get the license I need? Usually the cost of DBA is relatively insignificant. Fees quoted from different parts of the country range from $10 to $60. Fees you may have to pay for other permits, licenses, or bonds can be steep. However, running to hundreds or maybe even thousands of dollars depending on the nature of your business. What do I have to do to register the business name? You should go to the county or city's clerk office and search the records to see if there is any other business in your area using the name you want to use. If no other business is using that name, you will fill out a form, sign it, get it notarized, and pay a fee. In a few states, sole proprietorship and partnerships are registered at the state level rather than local. Corporations are always registered at the state level, often through Department of State. What can I do if someone else is using the name? Often the only thing you can do is choose another name. To avoid wasting time, it would be a good idea to check local phone books to see if anyone else is using the business name you want before you go to register the name, and have several alternatives in mind if the name you prefer turns out to be already in use. Can I use any name that isn't registered in the local area? There may be companies that operate regionally. They have trademarks or prior use rights to name, which would bar you from using that name even though it is not registered legally. You couldn't call your local computer company Apple Computer, for instance, if Apple Computer has not registered its name in your locality. You might be able to register Apple Stationery, Apple Chair Company, or other names that combine the word Apple with something unrelated to computers. What happens if I do accidentally use another business's name? If the business sells in your area and has prior use right to that name, they could force you to stop using the business name. You would then have to alert your customers, change your stationery, change your phone listings and business cards, and so on. How can I find out if businesses outside my immediate area are using the same name that I want to use? If you have access to a computer or a modem, subscribe to online information services. The easiest and fastest way to check the search several electronic databases for the same name you want to use. Dialog, Genie, and ComputerServe all offer trademark and trade name databases as well as electronic versions of Thomas's Register and other businesses directory. If you don't have access to a computer and modem or can't afford the search fees, ask the reference librarian at your public library to help you find the appropriate print references. Do I have to go to all that trouble? Like so many other things in business, it's a judgment call. If you will be operating only in a small local area and could, if you had to, change your name without a tremendous loss of money or customers, you may want to skip the national name search and just search for similar names in your area. If you proceed this way, you must realize if some company based in another region is using the name as a trademark or a trade name and moves in your area, they might be able to force you to stop using the name. When do I register a business name? The time to register your business name is as soon as you are sure you're going to go into business and decide on a business name. You wouldn't want to go to the trouble and expense of getting business stationery, opening a bank account, and the business name, and advertising the name if you won't be allowed to register it. Do I have to register in every county, state, and city I plan to do business in? If you only maintain an office in one location and do not physically travel from place to place selling merchandise, you probably will not be required to register your name in any place other than your own county, city, or state. For instance, if you live in Kansas and you have a mailbox order business that advertises in a national publication, you would not need to be required to register a business name in every state in which you have customers. Even though you may be required to register a business name in other states or localities, you might find it beneficial to register your business name as a trademark either in one or more states or nationally to prevent other companies from using a business name like yours to sell similar goods. See Chapter 20 for additional information on trademarks. Things work differently, however, if you are a flea market vendor or a craftsperson who travels from place to place selling goods. In such cases, you may be considered to have a physical presence, which is called nexus. In each locality in which you set up booth or rent table to sell your goods, you may therefore be required to register your business, get a license, and to collect the remit local sales taxes. If you are unsure of the requirements, show promoters and other vendors should be able to tell you what to do and to whom to contact. If you have offices in several counties or states, you may be required to register in those areas. If you operate as a corporation, you have to register as a foreign corporation in any state. You have offices in other than the state in which the corporation secures its charter. How do I sign up to collect sales tax? If your state collects a sales tax, call the State Department and ask for information about getting a sales tax number, also called sales tax permit, resale number, or resale permit. Do I have to pay sales tax on items I buy for the business? What is taxable and what isn't taxable varies from state to state. But generally, if you buy taxable items that will be consumed in your operation, your business, say paper, toner, cartridges, you either have to pay the sales tax on them when you purchase them, or if you use your reseller's number to avoid paying taxes at the time of the purchase, you will have to pay a use tax for using the items. The use tax will be equal to the sales tax. You have to pay a use tax for using the items. The use tax will be equal to the sales tax you would have paid. The difference is that you will send it in at the same time you send in sales tax you have collected on items you have sold to your customers. On the other hand, if you are purchasing something that will be used to make a product you will sell, a hard drive that you will be installing in a computer system you build from scratch for a client, for example, you do not have to pay sales or use tax on the purchase if you have a sales tax number. The reason is the sales taxes in the United States are paid by the consumer, not the manufacturer. Some flea market vendors and craftspeople ignore the local laws and do not register with the appropriate officials or collect sales taxes. Although some get away with it, breaking the law is never advisable. Furthermore, state and local officials often roam through many of the large flea markets and craft shows, spot checking for licenses and collection of sales tax. In certain counties, manufacturers may encounter a value add tax. With the value add tax, the manufacturer does pay a tax on the goods and supplies used in manufacturing a product. The cost of that tax is added onto the other cost in determining the final price of the product to the consumer. If the item would cost $100 and the company had to pay taxes equal to $5 for goods used in the manufacture of the item, the purchase price would be $105. Do I have to have an attorney to start a business? You aren't required to have an attorney to start a business, and many businesses do not have legal help getting started. If your business is regulated by local, state, or federal authorities, if you will be writing or accepting contracts involving significant sums of money, or if you will be operating as a partnership or a corporation, it is highly advisable to consult with an attorney. The money you spent up front to make sure things are setting up properly and in your best interest can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars and much aggravation in the future.